we're live. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Skip Happens, the show where we talk to the movers, the shakers, and the storytellers who are making things happen. I'm your host, Skip Clark, and tonight's guest is someone who truly knows how to make noise behind the scenes, believe me, and in all the right ways, too. He's a powerhouse in public relations, a connector of people, a guy who's worked with some of the biggest names in media, business, and entertainment, and I might add the government. I'm talking about the one and only. He's a good friend of mine, actually, and it's the first time we've had him on, and I can't believe it's been this long, but Jeff Gulko, and we're diving into his journey, the art of building real relationships, and what it takes to thrive in today's ever-changing media landscape. And there he is, Jeff. Are you nervous, Jeff?
No, I gotta be honest with you. Maybe a little. I think it's because I've set up in the last 20 whatever years. I've probably set up thousands of these interviews. Yeah. And I've been only on the camera side maybe 4 or 5 times. And as I was telling you before we started, the last time was like 13, 14 years ago, which is weird because it's never like that. I've done like phone interviews, when your college wants to do like an article on you, or, they want to seem like they're doing something nice because they want a donation or something. But this on the camera right now, yeah, I'm like, oh crap.
And I'm laughing at you. I want you to know that I'm laughing at you.
And it's interesting because I'm always like watching my clients. Like I've had so many people on with you over the years. I was thinking back, like we've actually known each other 10 years, which is crazy, which means this is completely long overdue.
Completely.
However, I've sat and watched these live and critiqued and judged the people that, clients. And I'll be honest, like I didn't share this link. Like I was on the phone with my mom right before and she's like, what's the link? And I said, to be honest, I'm going to give you the link after. And she said, why? I said, one, because I'm probably going to be nervous. I know my mom's watching, which is weird at my age. But I said also, if it turns out if it goes crappy or goes sideways, I'm not going to tell you.
Might. It just might. It's why it happened, dude. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's really no idea what's going to happen here. But no, a little nervous, but more excited because again, this is long overdue.
I know it is long overdue, and it's so good to see you. And officially, I'd like to welcome you to my pod zone. This is where I do them all, and it's just so good to talk to you. But when it comes to your mom, just to remember, this is live on my Facebook. It's live on YouTube. It's live on LinkedIn. It's live on my Instagram. So all she's got to do is
she will probably find it. I actually last week. I haven't told you who, but I can't say, but I started working with a really, really big artist last week, TV person, and my mom asked who it was, and my mom went on Instagram, and my mom doesn't go on Instagram often because she's a little older. Oh, I shouldn't have said it. See, now I'm already saying it.
There you go. Your phone's going to ring in a minute, I know.
Well, phone's on Do Not Disturb. But my mom then sent me a text and was like, oh my God, he's so handsome. Like, I'm following him and all. So she might find this. She's more in tune with the technology than I ever thought, which is a little scary because she monitors everything I post, and at least once a day sends me a text or calls me and says, do you really want to have that posted? Like, could that affect your work? Could it affect you? And so, yeah. So she probably found us.
I see your post. And I get it. And I get where you're coming from. And what are you looking at? I see you looking at something.
No, the stupid camera's over here and you're over here. And this is new to me. So I'm like, I'm trying to be polite and look at the person I'm talking to, but the camera's right here.
Don't look at me, look at the camera. I mean, you need to look at me, but look at the camera, and that's how you look at me.
All right, there we go. Yeah, no, there's nothing to look at. Although behind here is all of Nashville. So, I mean, it is an amazing view. But no, I'm watching. I was trying to look at you and the camera at the same time.
That's right. I was going to ask. So you are in Nashville.
I am in Nashville.
You are where all the action is. But where did you grow up? And how did that shape who you are today? Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up just outside of Boston. I know Zach is probably watching this. So, I'm a lifelong Red Sox fan. Sorry, Zach.
Just shut it off.
Exactly. We lost our viewer. But no, I was born in Boston and grew up about 20 minutes, or what was 20 minutes before, all the traffic, but 30 minutes south of Boston, a town called Stoughton, Sharon area. And if you're not familiar, it borders Foxborough. Foxborough is where the Patriots play, but, the South Shore.
That's a small town, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking.
Do you go back
to my actual town where I'm from?
Yeah.
Yeah, I go back to the town where I was born only because my favorite pizza place in the world is there. Pizza, if you think about it, isn't great. It's bar pies. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a whole kind of pizza that they don't serve outside of New England or Massachusetts. So
It's called bar pies.
the kind of pizza is called a bar pie. Yeah, and bar pie, bar pizza.
Gotcha.
There's an actual Facebook group that's called like New England Bar Pizza like Association, and there's something like 300,000 people. And people argue about which place. They have the same argument for years, which place is the best. But no, I go back. I mean, my mom now lives in Lexington, which was Lexington, the Battle of Lexington, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then my dad, is still down that area and on the Cape and whatnot. But you go back. None of my friends are still there. It's sort of one of those like towns like you grow up there and then you leave. Yeah, I don't think I know a single person that still lives there, except in all honesty, I think two girls I went to school with might dance at. There is a gentleman's club there, and I've been heard that they're still dancing and they're twins, but I don't watch this.
How does that memory stick? I mean, like of all things to talk about, talk about the twins that are dancing in a strip club.
No, it's very weird because this is how my mind goes. This is why I have no idea how this is going to go, Skip. But when you just said you go back, I'm visualizing the main street, right? Washington Street.
And I want you to
Washington Street. And I'm like, okay, Blockbuster was right across the street from Alex's, which I never went to as a patron, but I did an internship with the police department in college, and we went and did a call there, and I walked in there dancing were these two girls the twins. So now, like, yeah, it's how, I don't know. My mind just.
All right, Jeff, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
I know.
Wait a minute. But do you have a memory from your childhood that still sticks with you today, besides the Gentlemen's Club? Do you have a memory from being back at, your hometown, something along those lines?
I mean, yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I'm going to a little show and tell here. It might get me in trouble as well.
This is why I love Jeff. Here we go.
The street that I grew up on.
Although your camera's backwards, but that's okay. Don't mess with it. So
listen, that's the street I grew up on in Stoughton, Mass. And it's here on my bookshelf. And it's been in every office that I've ever had my entire career, because I've always felt like, no matter how successful you are or where you've been or where you've traveled, you come from somewhere. And, so I wouldn't be the person if I wasn't, I am today. If I had
steal that
on that street.
Did you steal it?
I didn't steal it. A friend of mine stole it, who has one of the biggest jobs on Wall Street right now, which is even funny. How we all.
I guess
I'm not saying his name, but we all have one. There are about 6 of us that lived on the street.
Cool.
And when we went off to college, we made sure that during that year, the town would put one up. You bang it off, and we all went off to college with the same. But we all, to this day, we all have it in our offices as that thing of like, you don't forget where you come from.
And to this day, the town is still looking for it, or the village or the city or whatever. So
yeah, there could be a warrant out for my arrest after this. If someone from my hometown is watching, they go like, "Oh, that's where the sign is."
So, what did you first do? I mean, because you're doing, you're a publicist now. You're into the media side of things, but you also interned at the police department. I know you worked at the White House for a little bit. I mean, all right, let's just go back. What was your first job?
Ever? My first job ever was I worked as a waiter
at the Gentlemen's Club. No,
I worked as a waiter at like 15 years old for a caterer, doing like bar mitzvahs and weddings. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It was horrible. It lasted very short because I think it was like the third time I remember I was walking out of the kitchen. I mean, I might have been 100 pounds soaking wet, and I had a full tray of wine glasses, and it was one of those doors that swing hard. Oh yeah, I went everywhere. And the problem is I was like 15. I remember it was a bar mitzvah, so it was like kids just like a year younger than me were making fun of me, and I went home and told my parents like, yeah, this just isn't.
Yeah, but you had a job. They did not.
I did have a job. I know. So, but yeah, no, that was the first. Even like the days of like your first job, like I had some really weird jobs. Like I worked at a gas station, like in with a little bubble. Like, I don't know why my overprotective parents felt this was safe in high school, that the kid was in one of those little glass things.
Right. The cigarette, you have the gum.
Yeah, and if I wanted to go to the bathroom, it was just like a little toilet behind the cigarette wall. The door opened up,
and you hope nobody comes to the window while you're sitting on the pot.
Or you just hope that no one's going to come and rob the place. Yeah, it's one of those things where once in a while I say, my parents were very overprotective. Like, how did that fly? But I was there, and then the Reebok World headquarters were in my town. So then the upgrade was go work at Reebok because they gave you a discount on shoes. But no, my career has been like there's no logic. There's no logic and no path.
I've kind of figured that out.
Yeah. Nothing was
knowing you over the last 10 years, and you and I have chatted a lot about life and things going on in our lives. But you being at the White House and doing media, and it's like, why? They don't even go together.
No, nothing. No, nothing does. I guess I might as well bring two references, since, you do country music, either Darius' song This or The Broken Road. It's my plan always was I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I always wanted to go to law school.
I could see that, though. Go ahead.
Yeah. But then there was this thing called the SATs. I went to a private prep school and my grades were good there. Something about the SATs just kicked my ass and kicked my ass. I took it a ton of times and no one could figure out what the problem was. And, I ended up going to college. But once I was there, I thought to myself, wait a minute, what if I do all this and I go to law school and then I can't pass the bar? Like, what happens if I have the same issue with like the bar as I did with SATs? And so I pivoted. Again, when I went to GW in DC, they didn't have pre-law. So what they told you to do was, do criminal justice / sociology, because it's the same classes that would prepare you for pre-law. Yeah. I got all excited as like a freshman, and I took way too many courses in that, like my freshman and sophomore year before, when I realized like I'm not going to be a lawyer. It was too late to change. Like I was fortunate my dad paid for college, but he wasn't going to pay for more than 4 years because I had a younger sister that was coming in right behind me.
Yeah, I got to keep it going.
Yeah, so I was like, oh great, now because that's what my degree. People don't realize that my actual degree in college is in criminal justice. Like it just shows you, there's no
rhyme or reason to it.
There's no rhyme or reason. But the criminal justice part actually did fall into like how my career then went, because I had to do my senior year, but I did it my junior year. Well, let me back up. I interned for my freshman year, Senator Kerry of Massachusetts. He was the commencement speaker at my high school graduation.
Very cool.
And my dad must have had this conversation with himself and not me or my mom. But once Kerry was done with his speech, I remember my dad, my dad's going to be pissed for me telling the story this way, but
hey, he's not watching. Remember, they don't have the link.
Half my family doesn't want to talk to me anyway, so now the other half won't either. But Dad like dragged me by my wrist up to like John Kerry was like, oh, this is my son Jeff. He's going to be a freshman at GW. He'd love to intern for you. And I remember I looked at my mom and I'm like, why is he signing me up for stuff before I even get to school? And so before I even like set foot at GW campus, I was already signed up to like intern and had like a commitment like outside of class. And so my freshman year, I interned for Kerry, which was a weird experience because I interned for him for the whole year. And he had this handbook. And I guess I'm going to tell people's dirt and secrets on this, but whatever.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast, but it said, do not speak to the senator unless he speaks to you. And well, I actually interned for this guy for a full year and I never met him. Right. And I'll get to later in the story, I'll get to when I met him and what I said to him. But so I interned for my first year. And then I got this idea of, well, what would be cool in this. And I said, what, I want to intern at the White House. This was a very interesting time for the White House intern program because there was a famous intern there at the same time. Monica, let's call her Monica.
I wasn't even going to go there, but yeah, go ahead.
So she was an intern at the same time. No, people like to ask if I ever wore a blue dress. I never wore a blue dress as an intern there, but I applied. And, I remember my parents are just like, this is really hard to get. I think what helped me is that year, the scandal started to break. So a lot of like female, this is a dead true thing. I heard this, like a lot of female parents weren't like rushing to let their daughters go apply for like a White House internship. So
right.
I got in, I got accepted to intern at the White House. But the thing was because I was at GW, a lot of people come to DC for a semester and leave. Because I was there and I was living 3 blocks from the White House, I stayed for 3 semesters. So I started putting in roots. And so, I was in the public liaison's office, but then I was actually in the press office during the whole scandal, which was when I first, cut my teeth.
That had to be nuts, dude.
Oh,
with everything that was going on with that scandal, we all know the story. We don't have to go and bring it up again, but to be able,
I have a lot of friends that were indirectly involved. Yeah, I had nothing to do with it, but it was a crazy time because I'll never forget the day Ken Starr's with the Star Report came out, and like the building was quiet because everybody was at their desk, like reading. And then all of a sudden, I remember like the guy in the office next to me be like, "Turn to page like 115," because like it was like some salacious thing, about cigars or the stuff that was in that. And everyone was just like, "Holy crap! Like this is real." But then what was interesting is because morale was really low, they were concerned about morale. The Clintons actually brought they were calling it a family fair day. It was a Saturday on the south lawn of the White House. It was for staff and like their immediate spouse or their kids to come. And like the invitation showed like cornhole and like games. And I remember walking there with my ex-wife number one. Actually,
another story, by the way. It'll be coming up in a little bit, but go ahead.
But anyways, I remember walking there thinking we were just going to this fair. And as we turned the corner, there was a full-blown carnival on the south lawn. Like Clinton went, like, I don't know like they went through no expense to try to make us all happy. I mean, there was Ferris wheels. There was like every game you could imagine playing. Like,
and like, this is for the staff. This is for you
to try to like boost morale because everyone that week was like feeling so down in the dumps because this report came out and it didn't look good for the president and this and that. But I always wondered to the tourists that were in DC that day. They had to be wondering, like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is there a Ferris wheel in the middle of the South Lawn? And why is there, like, I'm telling you, like, Tilt-A-Whirl, like, all the cool carnival rides were there. And, yeah, it was definitely an interesting time. But it was actually a time, it actually was the most pivotal time because indirectly that was going on. It became the most pivotal moment in my career because I then had to go do this field work in criminal justice. And so I didn't want to leave the White House. So I went over and worked in the White House Drug Policy Office, which at the time, the drug czar, this guy, Barry McCaffrey, 4-star general, he just led the first Iraq war. Amazing guy, crazy guy. And like he ran the office like he was still in the battlefields. And for a civilian and a kid like me, it was just like, if this is the real world, like I'm going to be a criminal career student, But so
Jeff, where were those offices? They're not in the actual White House, are they?
No. So when I was in the press office, I had a coveted, it's probably changed now, but I had a coveted blue badge, right?
Okay.
So you were in what was called the OEOB, Old Executive Office Building, which is the building just right adjacent to it.
Okay.
Now it's called I think it's now the Eisenhower Office Building. But so in the White House, you got like the West Wing and the East Wing. The East Wing are the people like the social coordinators and protocol and the people that plan the events and the parties and stuff. And in the West Wing, you have, it's not as big as anyone would imagine. I mean, you have, main floor, you walk in, you have the lobby, and then you have like cabinet room, and then behind the cabinet room, you have the president's office, Oval Office, and then you have like certain staff, like chief of staff, press secretary, but the offices are small. Like people would imagine it's this grandiose thing, and it really isn't. Oh, and you have the press briefing room. And then downstairs, you'll have like the situation room and some other things. But when you're an intern or even of the staff, only like not even 5% are given a blue badge. And the blue badge you could go from like OEOB into you could just go in the West Wing and just walk around and you could go anywhere. I somehow, as an intern, got a blue badge. And it was, I pinch myself now. I appreciated it then, but like to have that now, just the thing, the fact that if I wanted to, as an intern, you always like sort of walk around like to kill time so you don't have to work. So I literally would I would walk from the OEOB just, into the West Wing, and I would just walk, and like Clinton would be like sitting at his desk, and like I'm 19 years old, and like at home I go
by and go, "Hey Bill, how you doing today, Bill? What's going on?"
Well, that was the difference between that and John Kerry, because you were allowed to say hi to the president, and the president said hi to you. There wasn't this stuffiness. Now, I'm not. I mean, I didn't have. People didn't have as warm and fuzzy as a relationship with Hillary at that time. But it was amazing. And because I had a blue badge, it gave me the ability to give people tours after hours on the weekends of the White House and of the West Wing. So if you were like a friend of mine, you came to town, or you were a family member, like I could say, hey, meet me at 8 a.m. And I would bring you in and show you there. And, sometimes it was cool times. I mean, president could be coming and going on the helicopter, and you have like family there. And next, we're taking a picture. And yeah, it was interesting time. It's again, it doesn't seem like any of it happened. None of it makes sense, as we go through this journey. The one thing that people are going to take away from this is nothing in my life makes sense.
All right. Well, I mean, you're not alone. I think it's everybody now. But do you think it's all changed with what's going on today at the White House?
So I actually went back and worked. Actually, not a lot of people know this, but I actually spent just under a year traveling with Obama and Biden on their advanced teams.
Okay.
It's something I did during the after I graduated college. I spent a year on Clinton's advanced team traveling with him, coordinating motorcades and coordinating like events and sites. So I'd done it, and I did that with Clinton for a year until all of a sudden one day I got a phone call from presidential personnel saying that I was being nominated for a political appointment to go over to Department of Energy and be passed away. Yeah, but Bill Richardson.
Were you able to fly on the same plane and all that?
Oh yeah. Oh, listen, that's the thing that didn't make sense. Is like was
it Air Force One? If the president was on board, it's called Air Force One.
And I've been on it. And the craziest story, I don't know how I'll tell a story, but it's I have a D minus on my transcript in college, and it ruined like my GPA for the entire 4 years. And the D minus was in a class called the American Presidency. I kid you not. And I took this class while I was working full time at the White House. So my junior year of college, I had an idea for something with pro sports and anti-drugs. And I just, as an intern, started working on something, didn't tell anybody. And then it grew to this thing where I had 28 Major League Baseball teams all agreeing to do all this stuff for the White House and, hand out materials and send players to school and all that stuff. And then I got a phone call one day saying the drug czar wanted to see me. And verbatim, he's like, the president loves what you're doing. The government's never used pro sports as a vehicle to educate kids about drugs. We want you to start working full time here today, and we're naming you deputy manager of the new White House Athletic Initiative Against Drugs. And I'm like, sir, yes, sir. And we went home, and I remember the first question my dad said, because I'm a junior in college, and I'm now working at the White House full time, which again is like opposite from like, and because of this, U.S. News and World Report wrote this article titled, "Here's a White House Intern That Did Good." And it was sort of this whole thing that pinned like Monica and me in this one thing. But yeah, so it was. I was working.
Wow.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think, especially in this town, I think in Nashville, people just know me as the guy that's like managed a few independent artists, and like they don't. I don't know. I just maybe haven't spent enough time with them or whatnot. But yeah, I spent the next, like my junior and senior year, I worked full time at the White House, and I would put on a suit every day. I'd run to work. When it was time for class, I would run down, be there for attendance, wait for attendance, run back to work. And, I spent the summer before my senior year traveling to Major League Baseball stadiums, presenting from the pitcher's mound, plaques from the White House for doing the thing. They presented me back with a jersey, all the jerseys. I couldn't keep any of them, because they're, ethics laws, but they're probably in a closet somewhere, or the ethics guy probably has them hanging up in his house.
Probably.
I mean, think about it. Back then, that was the biggest concern ethically was, will Jeff take home the New York Mets jersey Mookie Wilson gave him? Like, it was craziness. But yeah, it was. But to answer your question, like, yeah, I mean, I was on Air Force One and all these things, and so I had this one teacher that taught the American presidency. His name's Forrest Maltzman, and I will not hold back that name. So if you're watching this, Forrest, I'm still pissed off because he took a point off your average every day you missed, and he didn't care that I was missing class because I was with the president. Like, I was traveling. Like, that's the irony of ironies. And I remember when he gave me the D minus, my dad was upset, and my dad's like, well, call him, tell him,
Wow.
And so I called him, and I was, I had a little bit of, I will admit, like, this DC Jeff, like, I don't know, a lot of people probably wouldn't like DC Jeff, because when you're in that environment and you're young and you have power, because I ended up having a lot of power, you become sort of an ass. And I remember I said to the teacher, because he's like, I'm not changing your grade. And I said, why don't you just give me an F then? Because D minus F. And he said something, Eric, I remember the line I said to him. I said, well, you know what? While you're teaching what you think is the American presidency, I've been living it. And I just hung up the phone.
Good for you, Jeff. I mean, you learn more from.
Yeah. And it became a joke on traveling because like Clinton, like everyone knew, like my average was going away every day. I had to go somewhere, and it'd be a joke. Be like, hey Jeff, what's your average at? I'm like, I think I'm at like a 75. Between now and the end of the semester, I'm totally screwed.
Everyone, I mean, that's amazing. The 10 years that I've known you, I've never heard all that. I knew some, but not everything. But are there any funny stories that you can tell us about being in the White House, maybe with the Clintons or traveling with Obama and Biden? Anything crazy ever happen where you go, I can't believe it just happened?
Well, no. I mean, I think the craziest thing I did, well, one was the places I went to. Mm-hmm. And all this was before iPhone. So like, there was no way, like, it was scary, especially as a kid, because there was no way to communicate home. Like they gave you like a cell phone, but the cell phone didn't work outside of the USF because it was some giant Qualcomm,
like satellite phones or something like that.
It was so stupid because I had 3 pagers.
Okay.
I had a ONDCP, White House Drug Policy pager. I had a White House Communications pager. And then I had a Department of Energy pager. Like I had 3 of these stupid things that would go off, but no way to call people back. It was the dumbest thing. And I had an earpiece, so that was on the road. I had an earpiece, and on a radio, listening to traffic. But a lot of times, like I had to lie to my parents about where I was going, just because I knew they would be nervous. And so I'll tell 2 quick things. One is, I remember I told my mom, and I told the truth about this like a year ago. It's weird, like because I forgot I lied back then, and so I told her I was going to Arizona. And I told her I was having like cell phone issues. And where I really went that week was there was a very under the radar trip that Bill Richardson took when he was energy secretary. And we went and visited every OPEC country to meet with OPEC ministers to negotiate the price of oil.
Right. Holy crap.
And Bill Richardson, like he became like a second father to me, like extremely close. It was our love of the Red Sox. So we had a crazy bond in the beginning. But he was very inclusive to me, meaning if he went in to go meet with an oil minister to negotiate or a hostage, I mean, his bread and butter was releasing hostages. I mean, I think every day, if he was alive right now, even the Israel situation would be totally different. And I would assume I was going to sit out in the hall with Secret Service. Mm-hmm. He'd always be like, oh, Jeff, come. And all of a sudden I find myself with like, the oil minister of Qatar or Saudi, Bill Richardson, and Jeff. Like, and because he said he wanted me to learn the art of negotiating and building relationships and building rapport. And so that one trip, like I told my mom, I went to Arizona, and I wasn't in Arizona. I went to Nigeria. I went to Algeria. I went to Saudi. I went to Qatar. I remember we met with the Saudi Crown Prince in London. Then we went to Austria. And my mom thought for the week I was in
Arizona.
And then as far as like the only thing that just never made sense, I guess it's timely now, is so I went in 2000 to Moscow, the country I can't go back to now because of my career post that. That's a true story. I can go in, but there's no way I will get out of Russia. I don't think you have a huge Russian population watching this, so I think I'm pretty safe.
No, but Moscow would be one place I would love to visit. I would love to see it.
Yeah, and it was amazing because I had dinner in the Kremlin. It was a historic event because Clinton was addressing the Duma, which is their Congress. And it was the first time a U.S. president had addressed the Congress in 50 years, probably. That was awesome and cool. But what was amazing that night, and again, thank God, because Bill Richardson was so inclusive to me, Richardson was going to have dinner with Clinton. And it wasn't just Clinton. It was going to be Clinton. It was going to be Madeleine Albright, who was Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. It was Rubin, who was Secretary of Treasury. No, Rubin left. It was Summers, who was Secretary of Treasury. I think George Tenet might have been there, who was the head of CIA, and Richardson. And same thing. I figured, motorcade, I'm going to spend the next 3-4 hours in the car sleeping, like you do when you're doing those things. And all of a sudden, like, I didn't get out of the car. And then Richardson, like, he always joked, he swore a lot. He's like, what the F are you doing? I'm like, I'm just saying. He's like, come on, we're going to eat. And I'm like, I can't go to this. Like, it's all printed out, like, who's at the table. And he goes, no, you're fine. Come with me. And he brought me. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting around at this place. And you remember weird things because it's so memorable. It was called the Pushkin Cafe. Mm-hmm. And I'm at a small round table with like 6 people. And it's literally Clint. It's those people in me. And I'm just listening to the conversation. But I remember like all of a sudden Madeline Albright was like, "Oh, so tell me about yourself." And I'm thinking, you talk about me being nervous on here at the beginning. Like I probably pooped myself and sweat myself through my cheap wool suit all about 10 seconds. I'm thinking like, what could I be telling these people? That was probably the most memorable. As far as funny or weird, the best picture I have of me and Bill Clinton was taken in Atlanta, and I was briefing him, and the photographer, he thanked me, and I did. The photographer got an amazing photo of like, it's just me and him. No one's around shaking hands. But what's interesting about that is he's wearing a yellow and blue tie. And that tie became very famous because that was the day Monica was testifying for Ken Starr. And the story goes, it's a true story, that Clinton had said to Monica, "I won't be with you that day. I won't be able to talk with you that day, but know that I'm with you because I'm going to wear the tie that you gave me." So the best picture I have with me and Clinton was that day, and he's wearing the tie.
That's so cool. It's so cool when you think about it.
It's interesting. Like, I haven't told these stories. Like
this is amazing.
I know I've been like incredibly blessed. And like, no, this is like, I think this is bringing things to reality because I have plenty of days where I wake up here and I even say like, what the hell am I doing in Nashville? I hate working for myself, business or life. Like I'm telling these stories and I'm like, shit, I have nothing to complain about right now. Like, no, these are, it's just, I'm like reliving this going, God, I was really fortunate.
You've already done more in your life than most people do in a lifetime.
When I first left the White House, I remember I called my mom, and because when Gore lost, I was out of a job, and like that was the only work I knew. And I remember I called my mom and I said, "Mom, like I peaked," because in my mind, when you're that young, you're 23 years old. I was 23 when I left, and like you think like, well, what else is ever going to match up to this? Like, what is going to bring the excitement? What am I going to be able to walk into a bar happy and be like, "Oh, I work in the White House." Like even that stuff, like. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to end up in like a cubicle or like, what am I going to do? And my mom's like, no. There's, she's like, brighter days ahead, brighter days. I'm like, shut up. It's not like nothing's going to be more exciting, but yeah, so it was, yeah.
Let me ask, because I don't want to get into a lot of politics because you know how that goes, but I understand what you did back in the day and all that, and the press room and all that. How do you think people are feeling right now in the White House? Maybe somebody that's called to do your job.
I tell people the difference between one is I couldn't do it now. One, it's a young man's game. Okay. I couldn't travel 24, 25 days a month the way that schedule is because, again, even when I was with Richardson, people don't realize is like if his schedule started at 7, I was at Department of Energy by 5 to park my car, getting in his car in the limo in the motorcade, going to his house, waking him up, full day of events. He had dinners at night, this and that. I finally get home, bring him home at midnight. I'm getting home at 1, take a shower. It's 1:30. Now I'm actually reading the briefing memos for the next day. I couldn't do it. It'd kill me. I mean, but I also you did as you were told. Like if I remember, you did as you told. And the problem now, and we're seeing this is it's become like way too political. It's extremely unfortunate because listen, Bill Clinton, like Republicans and Democrats didn't like each other when we were at the White House, but he and Gingrich, like they worked together. Like that was the last time there was a balanced budget, if you think about it. So, some of my closest friends to this day, actually one of my closest friends is the Bush appointee that took my job at Energy that I had to like work with during the transition. You wouldn't see that today. There's so much like hatred and, people are going to jail. Like I would never, because again, there's probably things that I did that I was told to do. That right now, like, the other side might be like, oh, investigate him or this or that. And like,
exactly.
In the process, I think it's extremely sad that no matter what side you fall on, that, we have 330 million people in this country. And like, that's what we had to choose from. And it's because the process is so nasty and the process is so divisive that there's plenty of good people, great people, experienced people that look and go, I don't want to bring my family through this. I don't want to do this to my family. And so the people that end up running, it's like ego. It's ego driven. They want it. They need it. And it's, again, it's, how you have to choose what we have to choose.
Exactly. Would you go back and change anything that you've done? You don't regret any of that, or do you?
No. I don't regret any of that. I mean, again, that was just like phase 1. I mean, we didn't even get into like CIA. I don't regret it at all, because everything has had this like weird place, with how I ended up. I mean, I just hit it on. I mean, people always, at least like every few days, I will sit there and be like White House. I understand. Yeah, I worked there. Like I have pictures to prove it. But like, it was the 2002 to 2006 and a half
Right.
that I do look and I go like, was I really there? Like, because that's the part that I think that's the part of my career that doesn't make sense. I wouldn't do it differently, because I say all the time, like, that's the most important and rewarding work I'm going to do in my entire life. Nothing will top it. I can say that I was involved in, stopping things from blowing up or saving people's lives. But, at the same time, I did my thing, but yeah, it just didn't make sense.
That's a chapter in the book of Jeff Gulko. Right there's a chapter. Let's move on to the next chapter. You mentioned CIA. You had a little bit to do with that.
Yeah. No. So the way that happened, because again, if people that know me, I think it's because people know me and I don't want to keep calling them overprotective parents, but I got Jewish parents.
There's nothing wrong with that.
They're over,
they love you, Jeff. What I mean, the family, they want to keep an eye on the kids. I get it.
They want little Jeff, even at my age now. Little Jeff, are you safe? Which actually today they're not happy with me today, because I booked plane tickets. Well, I told them I'm going to Israel in a few weeks, and they're not happy with this. They're very scared. But they so I lost my job when Gore lost. And then I went to go work at the biggest PR firm in the world. It's called Hill & Knowlton, global thing. I got a great job there. And I was there like a month and a half, and 9/11 happened. And they laid off. I mean, I got laid off.
Sure.
And so I found myself unemployed for the second time in a year, 2001. And I just, it took me forever to find this job, because when there's a change of administration, you and like 2,000 of your closest friends all have similar resumes, and you're all trying to find jobs, and you're of the party that like doesn't have power. Like, you don't have access anymore. Like, that's why people now leave like halfway through a term so they can go out and cash out. So I was out of a job for a second time, and I was on unemployment, and I remember I'd go with my friends to it was called the MCI Center, and we'd wait for like big tickets to like Andrea Bocelli or something. Michael Jordan every time. We'd buy tickets, and then like we'd scalp them, basically. Like,
you make your money back and then some.
You pay your bills. And so I went and had breakfast with Bill Richardson one morning, and I was at his house, and I was like, what do I do now? And at this time, he had just become governor of New Mexico. And so, but he was back in DC, and I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm scared. And he looked at me and he said, you still have your security clearance from the White House? And I'm like, yeah, it's still like it hasn't expired.
Sure.
And he looked at me and he said, why don't you go work at it was right after 9/11. He's like, why don't you go work at CIA? Like, they need good people. And I looked at him and I said, you've got it over the last 2 years. Like, so you got to know my parents very well. Like, that's never going to fly. And he looked at me with a dead face, like staring at his face. And he said, they won't know, you'll be undercover. And that's what it was then for the first year and a half of me being there. I was undercover. I had a different name. Other than, nobody knew.
Yeah, no, I get it. We don't need to go into detail, because I do enjoy talking to you, if you know what I mean. And we're good friends. But it's just interesting, the life that, even up to that point, it's pretty interesting. And then let me ask, how did you get to Nashville? Or how did you get to, managing or representing artists and all that?
So it was 2012, 13-ish. So I'd given up all things DC. I said, I'm done with this. Never again will I let voters or polls, control my ability to pay my bills. And so I went to a Hard Rock Cafe one night where my friend's sister was singing, had to be, supportive. And he introduced me to this guy who was managing a female teen pop group, and said, hey, we're looking for someone to do press. There were 5 girls between ages of 14 and 17. And I said, I don't know anything about music. I can't sing. I can't dance. Like, they put me in the last row of chorus because I sucked. I always thought it because I was tall. No, it's because I sucked. And so I said, and he said, well, why don't you just come down to rehearsal tomorrow night, meet the girls, maybe. And so I went down there, and everyone was really nice. And I was like, okay. And then we talked about, what they could pay me. And I was like, but I had my regular like clients during the day, like corporate PR clients. And it just became like this fun, like nighttime project I was working on. And then I was like, wow, this is really fun. Like, can I actually get paid to like do stuff in music? Like, is this real? Like, I can't get paid to go to concerts, like set up press and go. And I always loved country music, and I worked with them for a couple of years. The group fell apart just because you need 5 teenage girls, 5 moms, personalities. I still friendly with them all today, but it was a hard thing. And I one day was on Facebook, and some woman in Boston posted about her daughter, and I was just like, wow, this is really weird. A country artist from Boston. And I just said, try to pay it forward. Maybe I can help her with some local press. I like country music. And I reached out to her mom and met with them. And first I was just going to do press. And then, they were they were good people. I ended up falling into managing her as well. Because I think what it was the closest thing for me. I think music, it is. I mean, it's the closest thing to politics and campaigns, which is all I knew, without having been in politics and campaigns. There's no secret sauce to any of this music stuff. There really isn't. Instead of having a candidate that you want to kiss babies and shake hands, it's your candidate is the artist. And it's,
it's almost the same, but
it's very similar.
Yeah.
And so I fell in love with it, and started to do more and more. And then I made my first trip to Nashville, and yeah, it's weird because every once in a while I wake up and I'm like, how did I end? I'm looking outside right now at the entire city, and so how did I end up here? It doesn't make sense. But along the way I've met amazing people like yourself, and it's been fun. I still do corporate. I still have corporate clients, and I try to do as much in the music. But I do say this. I used to say this jokingly, and I say it seriously, and hopefully it doesn't really offend anybody. But I always said to people, I always thought the most political, sometimes backstabbing environment one could work in was the West Wing of the White House, until I entered the music industry. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is even more cutthroat. This is even more your best friend will completely cut you off at the knees. And then I felt that dealing with Al-Qaeda during the war would be the only time I dealt with terrorists. And, there's some people that I've met and dealt with that should maybe be listed as a terrorist.
Well, Jeff,
yeah,
I get you. No, it is. And I hear it on my side of things as well, doing what I do on the radio side and talking to people like you. And you've got an artist that comes out and you want to talk to me about maybe getting her on the radio or bringing her to town to meet, new fans. But yeah, I get that. It's got to be fun, but it's got to be stressful.
It's stressful. And what I had to learn very fast. I did not come into this, I'm not even saying this jokingly. I'm saying this wholehearted, honest, friend of friend. I'm lucky people like you even still talk to me based on, no, but true story. When I first came to doing the country music stuff, 2015, the problem was I came from the political world, right? Where you would make a call and you expected things to get done. And in your mind, if you had enough bullet points or ammunition, you're going to get what you want. And for me, I came in guns blazing. And I remember, with this artist, I had her on the Today Show. And to me, in my mind, it was well, if I had her on the Today Show and she's not even signed and this and that, everybody should be playing her song. And when people would say no or something, I was taking it way too personally. And I'd get sometimes nasty. And I'd be not nasty, but be how, what are you kidding me? She was just on the Today Show. And so I had to learn. It was a huge learning experience. And believe me, I spent plenty of time apologizing to people, letting them know that, hey, when I first came into this, I'm a different person. I had an ego. I came from DC. I came from CIA, where I was getting paid to basically, drill people and question them for answers. So I wasn't used to the answer no. And so, but it was definitely was a learning lesson. It was very humbling too, because, my dad always told me, there's a line my dad always told me growing up, and I live by it now. And unfortunately, I realized that for a few years I strayed from it. And he always says, don't ever treat people as a transaction, and make a friend, not a sale. And I came into this music thing just thinking okay, all right, we did Today's Show. We'll have tour buses within a month, and this one's going to play this radio station. And we're going to be, and it's not reality. And
it doesn't happen that way.
No,
that.
No, and now I know. And it wasn't until I started doing, when John Loba hired me over at BMG to work with a couple of the artists a couple of years ago, it wasn't until I experienced and saw from the label side that, it's just as hard. I always assume if you're a signed artist, it's just basically, it's like a menu. Just tell the world, the public and radio what you want and order what you want. And no, I learned very quickly that, you can be signed to a major label and you can be on a big tour and you are still scrapping and praying and fighting for every stream and every spin. And, you know, again, it's just, I look back at the early days and go like, oh my God, I was living in like a weird vacuum, like, you know, like I was going to, oh, I had the next Taylor Swift. Of course I did. Like, you know, easy peasy, but, you know, not the case. Humbling.
Mm-hmm. What drives you to keep doing what you do?
I think, and it's weird. So a couple of things. One is, I've always had this like massive fear of being homeless. Like, I don't know. And I've never been in like a situation. I mean, my parents were divorced when I was younger. My mom worked a couple of jobs and lived with a single mom. My dad, you know, my dad grew up with nothing. His dad was a mechanic, but he built a big advertising agency. I think I'm always just, you know, today I was driving, you see like a homeless person on the side of the street. Something just hits me where I'm just like, it could be me. It could be me.
Could be.
You know, I also like, you know, again, like I watched my mom as a single mom work multiple jobs, and I'm sure it wasn't easy, and, you know, bust her ass and cook dinners and whatnot and sacrifice. And on the flip side, I saw my dad, you know, start what was a big agency from what was a little, you know, closet in the basement of my childhood home. Yeah, and I think, you know, because my dad was an entrepreneur, and well, he's still alive, right? Dad.
Sorry, Dad.
No, but actually, real quick, I just thought about something.
My son, I knew it. Damn it!
No, listen, you asked for a funny story about the White House. That just brought something up. When I was there back in the day, you had to do these forms, and they weren't computer. It was all on typewriter. And I sent my paperwork in for my background investigation. I got called in one day, Secret Service. They sat me down and they said, "Is there anything that you're not being honest about on your form?" And I'm like, "No, sir." They're like, "Well, we found your mother." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Is there anything you want to tell us about your mom?" And I'm like, "No." "Well, we found her." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "You're doing okay?" "Yeah." They're like, "You sure there's nothing you want to tell us? You sure there's nothing on your form that you weren't upfront about?" Honestly, I said, "No."
Oh my God.
The stupid typewriter. I put an X in this box by accident, which meant deceased. And so in the course of my when they were investigating me for my first clearance, they were like, okay, there must be something in the family or something, like he's trying to hide his mom.
Yeah, you know, they're pretty thorough. So you know that more than I do, but yeah. So and we're all bound to make mistakes too, but you know, you look back on it now and it's like, holy shit, I did that.
Oh shit. And it shows you just how old I am, because it was on a freaking typewriter. And it was like, you know, like, if you made the thing was like 30 pages, you made one mistake. It was like, oh shit, we got to start again. Like,
get the white out.
White out. No, you couldn't do white out because it was like, you know,
and you're covering something up. Yeah, I get it. Oh man. So is there a particular project or moment in your career that you're especially proud of? Come on. You notice I made I wrote down some questions because I didn't know what I was going to ask you.
No, but you know, I like this because I don't do this. Like it makes you think. And again, I've been sitting on the other side watching this thousands of times.
Sure.
I would say, I mean, there's a lot, but I mean, obviously, like I said, the CIA days, you know, I mean, I can, without getting into detail, like I can say like things that I was involved in a very high and in direct and reason, you know, stop things from blowing up.
Yeah,
which saved lives. On the opposite hand, you know, there were times that I had to go to bed knowing that, you know, I made an analytical decision which resulted in, you know, civilians dying, and that's probably the biggest reason why I left. Is I couldn't
know how you'd be able to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, but I'd say, you know, it was, God, this is so hard, but I'd say one of them, and we're going to go back to 2009. I had a teacher in high school that was very, very like influential on me. This guy, Rob Dixon, and he was a cool teacher when he taught me. He just actually retired from the NBA, and, you know, came close, and he still does them on the board of directors, but he runs a program called Project Rise, and it's a summer camp, cultural enrichment and academic camp for at-risk kids from the inner city of Boston. And at the time, you know, 25 kids were part of it. Danny Wood from New Kids on the Block actually wrote the first check to underwrite it. That's why Danny and I have been extremely close over the years. And so I was People Magazine and Major League Baseball were having this thing to, you know, highlight people in the community. And so I nominated him, and I wrote the nomination. They got 70,000 nominations. And then they picked each baseball franchise got to pick their favorite from their community. And we won. The Red Sox picked us. But then it was the 5 living U.S. presidents got to pick their favorite. And in the competition, I remember to forget the guy that we were up against. He had like the public support of the Goo Goo Dolls. Like he had like celebrities, like, and it was an online voting thing. And I just went deep, and I was like, "There's no way I'm letting." I still called him Mr. Dixon. I'm like, I'm letting Mr. Dixon like lose this thing. Like, I'm back in campaign mode. I was using like voter lists from like Richardson's campaign that I probably shouldn't even use, but I'm like, anything I had to email people. And then I was like, what can I do? Because we're not going to win the vote. So what I did is I got Mayor Menino, I got the mayor of Boston to come out and visit the kids. I invited the governor, Deval Patrick, out to visit the kids. And what I'm pretty sure to this day I caused was, I know we did not win the popular vote. But what I did, I created a problem at People magazine where they were probably like, oh shit. Because the mayor of Boston, I got him to put out a press release that said, vote for like the one true Bostonian, because this guy, the teacher, grew up in Boston, grew up in the hood. And then Deval's putting out a press release. Like I turned this thing into like this online vote. It'd be like today, like an artist wanting more votes. You think? Yeah. And like the governor putting out a statement. So I created this issue where like People magazine one day called and they're like, hey, by the way, you guys won. Like, and I'm like, oh shit. And they go, by the way, like President Bush, George W. Bush, he picked you guys as what he thought was like the most like inspiring thing. And I remember I'm like, okay, we won, but I didn't know everything that came with it. So all of a sudden, like 3 days later, like my teacher and I, who was just we're being flown to the All-Star game in St. Louis. And all of a sudden, like same thing, like we're being honored in a parade, a red carpet parade. And like, I remember Jeter was in like the pickup truck with us. Like it was like in Ortiz, it was weird. But the cool thing was then for the game, two things happened on that trip. One is for the game, my teacher got to be on the pitcher's mound, and a video was played nationwide.
Oh, wow.
Where George Bush was narrating it, talking about Rob Dixon and the program. And what happened that night is all of a sudden I got an email from our web person saying the website crashed. Now, this program at the time had like maybe 40 kids. We raised enough money that basically that the website crashed because of people giving donations nationwide.
Yeah.
Then the next year and every year since, like the camp now has like 200 kids.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, now the coolest part of that trip, even though it was really cool, the coolest part of that trip is I got invited to Ryan. I was doing work for Kevin Youkilis at the time. You remember him? Mm-hmm. From the Red Sox? Yes. And I was hanging out with him, and he invited me to go to Ryan Howard's birthday party. And I was dressed like a freaking fan, like an idiot, I'm in a Red Sox t-shirt and
Red Sox hat, Red Sox party, right? Red Sox underwear. I know.
Oh yeah, and everybody else is dressed. Like I was one of the few people that wasn't a celebrity or a pro athlete, right? Like so, I should have been valeting cars. The way I was, like my bank account said I should be valeting cars. And I'll never forget that Kevin's talking to this girl, and they're this and that, and Kevin's wife at the time, and all of a sudden the girl puts out her hand, and he's like, oh, this is my friend Jeff, and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Jeff, and she goes, hi, I'm Alyssa, and as I'm shaking her hand, I go, holy shit. Ready? Are you ready for this?
Go.
And this is after, and she goes, let's do a shot. Everyone's doing a shot. It was Alyssa Milano.
No way, dude.
Alyssa Milano, was my whole life, pass. That was like my hall pass. That was like, you grew up watching Who's the Boss,
awesome.
like Michelle, yeah, it was Alyssa Milano. And I'm like, holy crap. And I'm just like, oh, hi, I'm Jeff. And I'm like, holy cow. And then we talked that whole night. And it's interesting because Twitter was the only way to communicate then. We actually for the next week and a half, DM'd each other. We were talking. I remember I went home and I'm just like, holy shit, Alyssa Milano's still DMing me.
Still talking.
Where is this going? What the hell? What's gonna happen? And then it just ended. I think she one day realized oh, this is some schmuck I met at a party who has nothing to offer, and now he's probably sending me creepy messages being like, hey, you ever coming to Boston? Let's go to Boston.
Oh my God. So what you're doing now, though, you're being a publicist not only for artists but for corporate as well. Yeah. And if somebody wanted to, contract your services, they can look you up online.
Yeah. It's so if you're on the music, so there's a few, it's kind of on the music side, it's these days you have to have multiple websites. So It's not confusing. So on the corporate side, which is, corporate government and nonprofit stuff, it's the Gulko, I think, www.thegulkogroup.com. And then on the music stuff, press side, it's gulkopublicity.com. And
okay.
Yeah, you know.
No, that's cool. I've known you for, like say 10 years and I've seen the work that you've done. It's pretty cool.
I appreciate it.
I want to touch a little bit. I got to think of the right way to say this.
Listen, I'm open book.
But some of your posts on Facebook lately with what's been going on, you're Jewish and there's a lot. That's why you're going back to Israel.
I've never been to Israel.
Okay, you never been, but you're going to visit, and it's part of your heritage, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm going. My parents don't understand why this is the time. So obviously I've always been Jewish, but I was bar mitzvahed, but I wasn't like my parents. We're Reformed. So you go to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and you celebrate Hanukkah, and you do Passover. Like, you're not over the top, anything like that. We follow the stuff. But then October 6th and 7th, so I'll never forget. So October 6th, I was in Florida, and I drove down from someone's house in Boca down to Miami to go see Frank. Frank Ray had a show that night.
Ray. Yeah.
Working for Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was with him all night, and then, they were flying out the next morning, and then I was going back to Boca for a few days to spend time with family. And I got back to the family's house at 1:00 and, turned on the TV, and that's when it was actually breaking in real time. Like people were still sleeping, and I was just watching, and I'm just like, no, this can't be real. Like in the footage. And then it sort of brought, it was that, then all of a sudden became scary. But, I've never been vocal, and it's something that, I'm not gonna lie. I've gotten death threats, over the last, year and a half. I had a guy, in Nashville, a month and a half ago come up in my face because, he was with a group of Jewish people. Every Sunday we do a walk for the hostages until everyone gets back. And he took a particular liking to me, and, he was a Palestinian guy, and he got up in my face and called me a baby killer and I should be dead and this and that. But, it's crazy. But I think, what got me sort of fired up more so is just what I felt, is been, a lack of response,
and here they come.
Yeah, lack of response. Given you can hear all the Nashville's finest fire department on the turning the up 3, 4. I think we should begin in a second. I don't know if that's.
Are they stopping in front of the building?
No, they're heading down towards Broadway.
Oh, well, that explains it.
No, but it is 5 fire trucks. Oh no, they're turning left on Broadway. Who knows? I don't know. Martin's
Are you that close to Broadway?
I am right across. Well, I don't actually. I am. Oh, I will say I don't even care. Whatever. You know where the big naked statue is on Demembrian?
Yes.
My apartment faces that big naked statue. I need to learn what the statue is called.
So you wake up every day and look out the window and see naked people.
At night, and you see big giant naked bodies.
Yep. And they're big.
I actually looked up online. They're like 35 feet. But back to
go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So what it was just like the silence, and I got really like I actually at that time I thought about like not doing anything in music ever again, because what was turning me off and what hurt was here it is, you had like a festival, and just like we all go, and whether it's a festival or artist show or a tour, and you had almost 400 kids. Like that were like paragliders come in and they butchered and murdered, and the girls were raped and kidnapped, and it was silence. And I'm the person who whether I remember when Black Lives Matter, I put up the black box, and when the Asian guy was beat up on the subway in New York, I did the whole everyone should be treated fairly. And when there was the shooting down in Florida, at the gay bar, it was like, hey, LGBT, like we're all one. And then all of a sudden it's like, to me, it was like, wait a minute, something happened to Jewish people and everyone's being silent. I'm like, how is this city so quiet? Like, whether you're a booking agent, whether you're a manager, whether you're a radio person, whether you're a label executive, whether you're a lawyer from an artist, we're all at those shows. And it's like, 300 people out of, we're talking, 40% of the people that were at that festival were killed. I mean, let's take one of, just to do numbers and math, like, let's take one of Luke Combs' shows, where he has 50,000 people. There'd be 22,000 people killed at a concert. And so everyone was silent. And then it transitioned from the silence to like the craziness on the college campuses. And then it wasn't until I went to go visit GW, my alma mater, and I went and met with some students, and they would tell me like, I've stopped going to, well, this must be really big. It's 3 more fire trucks. They stopped going to certain classes because they were being physically assaulted. And I just was like, you know what, like I can't stay quiet. On a personal level, in high school, I had someone painted a swastika outside my mom's house.
Oh,
The town didn't do anything about it. When I was in second grade, a kid put a knife to my neck walking home from school, thinking it was funny because I was a Jewish kid. So like, to me, it brought that back, and I was just like, I can't stay silent. Like I don't have a ton of followers, but you know what? I have a lot of members of the media that follow me, and I was like, you know, I'm going to start posting. But then that came with, you know, that kind of stuff comes with things, and you know, my mom was nervous, and you know, don't post.
No, I don't blame her.
You're going to get hurt, and this and that, and I'm like, I have firearms. Like I'm trained. Like I'm fine. No, you're not trained. Someone can come in your apartment. I'm like, no, they can't. I'm trying to like justify her, but I think it's probably the thing. I probably never have like cried so many tears in a period of time. I've never lied awake in bed at night, like unable to sleep. I've never looked over my shoulder as much. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I very rarely leave my apartment unarmed because I don't know if these people that have sent nasty messages, I don't know if they live with their mom in a basement in Oklahoma, or I don't know if it's someone here. You know,
you got the right to carry. Yeah.
You what? Yeah,
I said you have the right to carry. I mean, why not?
Oh,
I hear you.
Yeah, and I'm not like some reactionary believe me, I've been trained by the best 3-letter agency in this. But they
we know.
But it's just it's just been wild. And I think the thing that's also like really frustrating is from the Jewish side, how many Jewish people with a platform have remained completely silent. Like they haven't said anything, and it's for fear of losing jobs or opportunities or fans. And you know, a good friend of mine is James Maslow from Big Time Rush,
right?
And he's probably, other than Michael Rappaport and, you know, Montana Tucker, there's been nobody on the celebrity side that actually has a following that's been vocal and has been willing to put their neck out and risk it all to try to, you know, change the narrative. And I think what happened is, you know, I'm not going to throw blame to politics, but and I worked for him for a year, and I knew Joe Biden for many years, but I think the last administration missed a really good opportunity that when this first happened to come out, and when the first thing started to happen on college campuses, to condone it. And because what happened is there was no messaging, there was nothing, and these schools didn't know what to do. And before you know it, the schools were overtaken. And then, you know, I mean, at GW at my school, you know, I remember I talked to the university police, and they were telling me, oh no, DC police, and they're like, the president school won't let us on campus. And so, you know, I think everyone was trying to appease everyone, but it got extremely out of hand. You know, now it's scary. I mean, it's just it's not the thing that I thought, you know, in 2025 would take up the most amount of my time every day, and emotions and this and that. I mean, when I say I have a cry, I mean, like, you know, I'm over to grown, like, you know, I've cried myself to sleep countless nights, just like thinking how can this be? And that's to the point where I've stopped watching the news because like, one, it becomes like infuriating, but two, you become, you know, and, you know, I'm a news junkie. I mean, it's what I do. I worked in news. But it's just, I mean, you know, even like right now, but the problem is now it's become politicized, like everything else.
That's causing a problem.
It's become politicized, it's become drama, and, you know, and the other problem too is, the other thing that's changed is, you talk about back during the Clinton days, like, you know, even like Fox News, right? You could go and like, we did Fox News all the time. Richardson went on Fox, and he would go on Bill O'Reilly. Yeah. And O'Reilly would ask tough questions, but it wasn't like 100% one side. So like right now, if you go to Fox, you're only getting one story. You go to MSNBC, you're only getting the other story. And so people's minds, like at this point, especially with the social media, it's like we've all been programmed. Like even like you turn on TV, if you have Hulu or you have Netflix, like you don't even figure out what you want to watch anymore. It's whatever we watch, whatever Netflix puts up there is trending, right? Oh, what's trending? And like they decide. So, you know, you go to listen to music on Spotify, we go to the editorial playlist. Like, what have they said we should listen to? And the same thing has happened with the news, because as I said, we go and do this walk. You know, myself and Ada, who you know, again, Jewish artist, and you know, she's 5 foot tall, and I give her all the credit in the world. Like, you know, she gets death threats, but she's very outspoken. And we go and do these walks, and the number of people that, you know, see us walk, and they've never, like, the number of people that have never even heard of October 7th. It's just is mind blowing. And you talk to them like, well, what do you mean? And you have a sign, and there's like, like Otter always carries one of the Beavis kids, the two infants in the morning.
Yep.
And it says like kill. And then people like, we had a woman like last week goes, oh, what state did this happen? And we're like, wait, what?
What?
It happened October 7th. And they go, and the woman looked and she goes, well, what happened on October 7th? And I actually, true story, I was about to go on a date. I was about to go on a date with someone like a month and a half ago. And the woman said like, oh, what did you do last night? And I was on the phone. I said, oh, I went to go see the October 8th movie, which is, I went the night before, to go see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, oh, what's the October 8th? The woman's like, what's the October 8th movie about?
No clue.
I'm like, it's about October 7th. Everything that happened starting that day. And she goes, oh, well, what happened October 7th? And I was just like, I can't, I can't go out with you. Like, I don't care what you look like. I'll get like how much money you have. Like, you're too much of a, too much of under a shell for me. I can't start at this, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate you asking. I mean, because
it's your belief, man. And I get it.
You're afraid to ask and talk about it. It's like, people.
And
people are like afraid to be like, oh, I support like people not being raped and killed. Like, and people go, like, oh, what about Gaza? Like Palestine? Listen, I don't want a single, especially after what I did during the Iraq war. I don't want a single person to get even a cut. Never mind on either side get killed, or wounded. Never, no way. But like, you gotta like. Every action, like you got to start at what it begins. I mean, if someone's married and they go and cheat on their wife and then the wife asks for a divorce, you can't get married to the wife and be like, oh my God, why are you asking for the divorce if you cheated? Same thing. You got to go back and look. And the problem is so many people don't even know. People don't know what actually started the thing. And hopefully, God willing, it ends soon. And, you're down to 59 hostages. But again, because so many people get their news from Instagram, they get from scrolling.
You're right there. It's not only Instagram, it's anything online, and they're believing what they're reading. And the thing is, if you were to, and it's happened to me too, I lay back obviously a little bit because of what I do, but I understand where you're coming from. The minute you do express an opinion, and you get like, bam, it's like, whoa. I'm entitled to my opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion, but doesn't mean you have to attack me.
Yeah. No,
that's what's happening. But
believe me. I mean, the messages I get are just like, and I used to like on the comments, like I used to like fire back, but then
not to.
No, it's just one. It's a waste of my time and breath and energy. It's pulling more negative stuff versus finding a positive way to spend that time. But two, three, whatever. I can't count. I repeated algebra 1 in high school. It's a true story for all you kids that maybe don't do good at math. Like I repeated algebra 1, and
I suck at math. All right,
I suck at math.
See, I wanted to be an airline. I wanted to be a pilot.
Oh, nice.
My guidance counselor said you had to be really good in math, and you suck in math. So let's think of something else. Let's go in a different direction.
Maybe we go be flight attendants together. It's the same person. They do less and less. Now you get on a flight, and even if there's no turbulence, the captain I'm convinced it's a cost cutting measure. You get on a flight now, and they go, "Oh, just so you know, about the first half of the flight's going to be extremely bumpy. So we're going to ask the cabin crew to stay seated." Basically meaning we're not going to serve you any drinks, and then there's no turbulence. I'm convinced.
Yeah, I know. It's a racket. No, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
Oh, I used to be like, I'm getting better. I have to admit, like since I moved here full time in December, I was doing a lot of like staying up till like 1, 2 in the morning doing work. And now in the last like few weeks, I'm like, no, like I try to go to bed because my apartment is like all floor to ceiling glass, so I can look at the naked people. And I don't put any of the blinds down, which I know it's weird because I think one of the big booking agencies like right across the street. So I'm convinced that people
that are running through your living room in your boxers because it's not going to be.
No, I do all the time, and I sleep and I wake up and like sometimes I can tell like I know there's people in their offices like watching me. There's probably bets on what time I'm getting up because I won't put the blinds down because I feel I pay too much money for the view. I sleep with all the stuff up. So because of the sun, I've converted back to, getting up in the morning. Plus, that's the best time to be productive. And so
coffee or tea?
I've only had 1 cup of coffee my entire life.
Really?
I'm naturally caffeinated. Actually, everyone that knows me, and you probably agrees, are like,
Yeah,
we don't want to know you on coffee.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked. All I've had today is like a bottle of water. So yeah, there's not even.
That's good for you. Is it smart water?
It's not smart water. This is Kirkland because I'm paying too much for rent. I'm getting like the
Oh, you went to Costco.
Yeah, oh yeah, heck yeah.
It's Kirkland. Come on.
Yeah, heck
They
yeah.
got shirts, they got pants, they got socks, they got water, they've got sheds.
Yeah, they get everything. I never forget, like when I first moved to Charleston before I was here, there wasn't a lot, like you wore shorts and flip flops every day, right? So I bought all my clothes there. I remember, my dad's like, "Oh, those are nice shorts. Where you get them?" And I'm like, Costco. I remember my dad goes like, he pulled me aside. He's like, "Everything all right?" Like, no, he goes, "Are you okay financially? Like, you be honest. Like, is everything all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's wrong?" He's like, "Why are you buying your clothes at Costco?" I'm like, "Why shouldn't I buy my clothes at Costco?" I'm like, "You just love these shorts. These are all
Costco."
Yeah, I buy everything. No, in fact, I'm going tomorrow. I get all my produce at Costco.
I know. I mean, my wife and I last week we had a little time off, and I said, "You know what? Let's go to Costco." Yes, let's go to Costco.
No, I get all my
trip.
They have the best produce of any grocery. I go there. I'll actually drive 20 miles to the Costco in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, because it's like fairly new, the building. They're like 6 months old, and the produce is fresh. You can't find better produce. Yeah, and I will drive 40 minutes and 40 miles round trip.
Book or movie?
It's probably a movie, but I'm trying to get more into books just because I don't think I've read a full book in probably
I haven't
20 years, and I'm trying to. And actually, I was on a work trip with Otter a few weeks ago, and she gave me a book, and I started. It's something about like if you keep looking backwards, you won't trip. And so it's like it's a book because obviously I got a little major change going on in my life, and so friends have been like, "Hey, maybe you should read this book, or maybe you should do this that." So, but it's I should read more books, but I need to find time. But if I read less crap on Facebook and Instagram, I could probably read some, or I could write a book. I could write my autobiography, and maybe my mom would buy it.
I think we just heard it. Guilty pleasure. What's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure.
My watch keeps beeping here.
Oh no, not mine. Oh,
no, mine is beeping. That's okay. I'll get it.
I'm limited. Are we like bonus round?
We could be.
We're going like 2
what's
hours.
your guilty pleasure?
Okay. My guilty pleasure. I watch a lot of stupid TV. Like when I watch TV, I watch a lot of stupid TV, like things that are probably like when they're sitting around a strategy meeting at a TV station or network, the demographic they're looking for is probably like 15 to 25. And for some reason I'm glued to those shows. And yeah, I mean, the one being Below Deck. I've peeled back from some of the Real Housewives stuff, but a lot of the train wreck shows. And I don't know if I did those just so you feel better about yourself.
You watching the Kardashians?
I did. Oh, I did when it was on. Yeah, not the new one, but I didn't miss an episode of the old ones. Looking back, and I think it was funny because when I first was working with that teen pop group, I think that's why I probably did it because I felt like I had so much in common with them because we could actually talk about the same TV shows or I'd be like, "Oh my God, did you see Real Housewives of Beverly Hills this week?" I was on a date the other night and the girl on the date was like, she said, "Oh yeah, so and so." I'm like, "Oh, from Real Housewives." And she's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, "Oh shit, this is going one way or another. Either I'm getting another date or she's going home and calling her friend and be like, no chance, this guy watches Real Housewives." And it worked for the better because we went on again.
What's next? Oh, go ahead. I cut you off.
What's next on what?
No, I was going to say, what's next for Jeff Gulko?
I'm probably going to take a walk down to maybe a Live Oak to go watch a writer's round because that's what you do when you live here and you're single and you got nothing to do and there's more live great music possible. I'm actually right now I'm trying to I got to do better. I'm working on putting like myself first, like me on the front burner. Even with clients, like I've been doing a lot of I'm working to be more in the moment.
Good.
Like for example, when I go home from Mother's Day in a week and a half, like I already told my mom, I'm like, I'm turning my phone off. And my mom's like, no way. I'm like, and so doing that, I'm trying to get some more corporate clients because as you know, I have a huge corporate client and we were tied up in a lawsuit for 4 years, thanks to Tony Fauci, but we won it. So that freed up about 6 hours a day for me that I was working on this lawsuit and stuff. So, if you're out there and you need work, you need work done, I'm
There
here.
it is.
Put it this way, folks, it's sort of like you do in charity.
Send me a contract.
If you hire me, that's less time I can annoy Skip texting him during the day or anybody thinking everyone else is just free to just chat.
I look forward to your text. I look forward to your phone call.
No, listen, I don't tell people when I ever meet people, especially when I first almost work with them, right? I always say to them, listen, I'm not one person to tell you what you want to hear, just tell you the truth. And so when I say that with this here, that whenever I tell people who you are, right? And especially, I'm not going to say, but your guests for tomorrow and whatnot, I always say, Skip Clark, the nicest guy I've met since I've been doing music. Oh, and I swear to God, I say it. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, he's the nicest guy you're going to meet. Your experience with him as an interview, it's going to be the most no disrespect to other people that may be watching, but it's going to be the most enjoyable interview you're going to do. You're going to feel like you just spent an hour, with your uncle or a family member. And to me, I've never, I can count on less than one hand, the number of people. And again, I came into this guns blazing, and I was an asshole. But there's certain people that were good to me, very good to me, much better to me than they probably should have, and allowed me to get to where I am today. Because if it weren't for people like you who let me come visit with an independent artist who probably didn't have the reason to be there, as far as numbers or streams or what they were doing, it was you were an enabler, and you are even the fact that you do this, and the fact that you work during the day and you have a family and this and that, but you take the time to do this and provide a platform. Obviously tonight it's for crazy old men, but on most normal nights it's for it's for A-list artists, but you put as much time and detail and energy into interviewing an up-and-coming artist or a brand new artist and giving them a platform or giving them a reason to do this interview and get off and call their mom and be like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe I just did this interview with this guy and blah blah. And I think it's what the world needs more of, just genuine people that you admire, people that you like to work with. But I think this industry could learn a lot from you, because there's a lot of people that just have the walls, and unless you have a song that charted 30, they won't even take your phone call or this or that. And no one's saying you have to play the music, but just because we all started somewhere.
Exactly.
We all started somewhere. And the guy that's doing the playlist, if you're the head of I don't want to say one of the let's say you're head of DSP, you didn't start there. And I think so many people in this industry, both artists and on the radio side, they forget very quickly where they came from, and that somebody at some point helped them. There was a Skip Clark there that maybe when they were getting their first job at a radio station, gave them an extra shift or helped coach them. And I think too many people forget. Everyone thinks oh, I just appeared. I'm doing all this greatness. It's no, we all had it. I got into the White House intern program because my dad had a bagel store on the side that summer. Hold on, stupid story. But anyways, a guy came in and it turned out he was an advisor to Clinton. It was dumb luck. And then he submitted my resume. It's we all had those people. And that's why, even now, I always say just pay it forward. It's old adage, but you're gonna see the same people on the way down as you saw on the way up. So it's why not just be nice and be supportive and give someone a leg, and don't be so freaking territorial, and just do nice things for people, And so
Jeff, take a deep breath. Okay.
I'm a storyteller.
Your comments are very, very kind, and I appreciate that. But I love what I do, and I do believe in giving everybody a fair chance. I don't know, like talking to Reba McEntire, and I'm going to give her the same amount of time, or I talk to a new artist, I would give them the same amount of time that I would if I was talking to Reba McEntire. Just using that as an example. And tomorrow night we talked about the guest, and and I've already told a few people who the guest will be tomorrow night. And they're like, do you really want to interview him? I go, yeah, damn right I do. Yeah. Because, it's Jimmy Allen. I'm just going to say it's Jimmy Allen. There's a lot of talk, everything was let go, but I want to find out what's going on with his life now. I want to find out what can we do to get
there's a lot from the share there. And I've been blackballed by some people. I knew Jimmy Allen before anybody in the city, before he had a label deal or anything.
Yep.
I got a lot of people, and I lost projects, but I was raised two things. One, I'm not going to listen. And I say this to Jimmy, right? If you cheat, it's a self-inflicted wound, right?
It is.
And I also say, like, if the litmus test to be permanently blackballed is if you cheat, I'm looking at a building right now. It's going to have a lot of empty offices. Number two, though, again, self-inflicted. But I also grew up where you remain loyal to friends, and I also grew up in a country and a system. In a lot of things now, it's innocent until proven guilty. And I would hope that, God forbid, not that circumstance, but anything, like, my friends wouldn't just leave me or alienate me. And actually, it doesn't mean you got to remain best friends and be pounding your chest and posting online and supporting them, but at least be there, because we never know people's mental health. I mean, we saw it just yesterday. I mean, there was someone in our community that looks, for all intents and purposes, like, took their own life. And it's just you don't write off people. I've just been raised that you don't write off people unless you've been given a real reason to. And Jimmy's been a friend, and when I had early artists early on, when he was really big, he put them on shows with him. He didn't need to do that, and he was there to help me out in ways. And it's just, but I'm glad he's going to be on. I think he'll be a great guest. Mental health is definitely tell you, it's a big part to him. And awesome. I will say, I've spent time with him since, and he's a changed person. I think sometimes when you go through that, and I think he realizes that he's getting a second chance at life right now. And I think he honestly is trying to make the most of it, and being a changed person. And you pray and hope, and that people don't digress and whatnot. But yeah. But
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to get it out tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And all because of you, Jeff Gulko.
And it should be interesting because he hasn't talked to a lot of people. I mean, he did the thing with Kathy Lee Gifford. And I don't think there's been many others. So, but the same thing, when I mentioned it to him, he knew exactly who you were. And he goes, he said, oh, that's a really nice guy from up in upstate New York. Oh, he was always really great to me. And, so.
Jeff Gulko, you've experienced Skip Happens. So, I know. Coming on, it's been really cool. We've been talking for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's past your bedtime.
No comments from Zach?
I heard him upstairs. I don't know if the Mets must be playing tonight, so I don't know. Yeah, he's been pretty quiet. I know. I don't know what the deal is, but
since you guys are Mets fans, in '98, I actually got to go to Shea Stadium.
Cool.
And I got to present the Mets with a plaque from the pitcher's mound, and Mookie Wilson presented me with a jersey. I have a really cool photo. Yeah, I'll email it to you. A cool photo on the scoreboard at Shea Stadium that said, please welcome Jeff Gulko, deputy manager of the White House Athletic Initiative Against Drugs. Now, for me, that was a good and bad night, because it was cool to meet Mookie Wilson and do this. But Mookie Wilson, I was a very, very sad kid in 1986. Mookie Wilson and his friends. The world is still there, Skip.
The memory is still fresh.
My God. We were on Nantucket one summer, and Bill Buckner walked by. And my dad is like the real life Larry David. Hanging and living with my dad is like my life is one big Curb Your Enthusiasm episode when we were with my dad. And now I'm screwed. But yeah, we saw Bill Buckner, and my dad goes, hey, so do people still ask you about it? Even as a kid, I'm thinking, you just did. Let the guy be. People, you still think about it. You still think about how you let down an entire region and world and generations of Red Sox. But no,
yeah. So Jeff, almost time for you to go to the writers round. You're gonna walk on over there. This is going on. I got to see your apartment sometime, because they have that view of Nashville.
There it is.
Oh, I love it. Oh yeah. Holy crap.
There you go. There's Live Oak.
Where's the AT&T building or the Batman building?
Oh, that's way down.
That's on the other side. I got you.
This tin roof, Live Oak.
Yep. Okay.
And, there's a little statue.
Where's the naked? There it is. Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, right down there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And now here it is. I always try to tell the artists I work with, be careful, because I'm very security conscious, and I'm don't post pictures in your own neighborhood. This like because you can't be accessible. And I've now shared with everybody where I live. So yeah, I might not go across the street
I don't
tonight.
know exactly. So
No, I'm kidding.
we'll
Yeah,
keep it that way.
it's all right. I got just so you know, don't mess with me because Skip Clark's the head of my security detail.
Yeah, well, not really. You should be the head of mine, but not that I ever need one. But I appreciate all you do and all you've done for me. So you've worked with a lot of artists. We've had them on Skip Happens. Tonight I'm talking to the man that's done all that, and now he's actually been on. He's part of Skip Happens now.
I love this. No, I'm an alumni.
You are.
You're
no longer. Well, you're a Skip Happens virgin. So
I was. I lost my virginity tonight to Skip.
Well, let's just leave it at that. Jeff Gulko, thanks for joining us. Skip Happens tonight. It's been real.
It's been interesting. Hopefully, I didn't talk too. I'm worried right now when I go back and watch it. I talk too much. Not like overshare, but I just didn't shut up because I'm.
You're still talking. Stay right there, my friend. Stay right there. Have a good night, everybody. Don't forget, follow, subscribe. Skip Happens. It's on YouTube. Just say, yeah, I love it. Hit the subscribe button.